Today we're going to talk about doing a Lamy Vista conversion to an eyedropper. This is what a Lamy Vista looks like as is. It's pretty standard. It's got a converter inside. You could use a cartridge, and this is basically the ink capacity you're going to get. A little bit more maybe with a cartridge, but that's pretty much it. And you can see that it has windows, portholes inside here, which are pretty pointless in this context because the whole barrel is transparent, and yet there's windows here. In a different colored, opaque colored Lamy Safari pen, these windows make sense, but here they basically, I guess, are being made from the same mold, maybe, or the same process that's creating the Lamy Safari is being used for the Lamy Vista. You also have some vent holes inside here as well. Here's how it looks like after you do an eyedropper conversion of a Lamy Vista. Pen is still the same, but you can see the ink is filled up in the entirety of the barrel. And what I've done is I've done some custom modification to this pen to close up these holes, and now it's a watertight container, which is basically holding the entire length of the barrel, is holding the ink. I find this is a lot better balanced than this one. It's more evenly balanced. Of course, the ink capacity is there, and then it's just basically fun to convert this into an eyedropper. And I have yet to see this, but it's possible that it will also increase the ink flow. These pens are a little bit notorious for not having the ink flow that you're supposed to see. So let's get right to it. We'll talk about the tools you're going to need in order to do this. So let's do it. So the tools you're going to need in order to make this conversion, this is as much of a complete list as I can come up with for the tools that I used. You're going to need a Scotch tape. Any Scotch tape with a matte finish, and it shouldn't be the packing tape, which is a lot harsher adhesive. It's an easier adhesive to get. This is primarily going to be used to block the big windows while we fill it up with some form of sealant. This is a sealant that I picked up. It's an outdoor adhesive sealant, and I picked it up from Home Depot for $5. Seems to work good for my purposes. It sets in 5 minutes. This sealant mentions that the set time is 5 minutes, and then it needs 24 hours to cure. There's a process that it goes through after it sets where it basically becomes permanent, and that process is called curing. So this thing will take 24 hours to cure. This $5 at Home Depot. Some Q-tips, just in case you need them. Maybe some tissue paper is also nice to have. Tweezers. I use these to get inside the barrel and do the manipulation. Any type of tweezers would be good. This is what worked well for me. And then I used a paper clip to basically handle the sealant when I'm pouring it inside the pen. So it seems to do the trick okay for me. And then last but not least, after you're done with blocking the holes of the barrel of the Lamy Vista, you're gonna need to put something on the threads, a silicone grease. I got this from Goulet, 100% silicone grease. You need to apply that to the threads before you screw it on so that the ink doesn't get through the threads and leak out from this seam, the connection here, and get on your hands. So for any type of eyedropper conversion, for Kavekos, for any other types, if you've got threads and the pen was initially not meant to be an eyedropper conversion, you use silicone grease to basically slather it on to the threads, and then you can see the threads have some air in them, but basically silicone grease gets in there and it just prevents the ink from coming out. So let's get started. This is my pen. Of course, right now it has some greenish colored ink. I believe this is Iroshizuku Konpeki in here, but I'll take it out. I'll flush this thing thoroughly before I use it. But our work comes with this thing much later. Most of the work we're gonna do is on the barrel today. So let's get started. First thing we want to do is close up the barrel, and the way to do it is you want to get some tape, which is going to be, and you want to cut off enough tape here so that it gives you enough of a grabbing room for the tape, but it is enough to get past the window. The window. This is the tape. The length of the tape looks alright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a loop out of the tape that looks like this. All the adhesive surface of the tape is external. I do this, and then I know that the tape's gonna open from here once I introduce it inside. So I'm going to apply it here, stick it, and then I'm gonna use a Q-tip and start inserting it in here. Now I'm using the Q-tip to apply pressure to the tape so that it sticks to the insides of the barrel. Requires a little bit of trick to it, but you can. Now I've unstuck the, I have a little bit of, yeah. Now I'm going to use a Q-tip to push, and I can visually see if there's any air bubbles between the tape and the barrel. I can see that the light reflects differently from it, but I'm basically using the Q-tip to rub the insides of this Scotch tape. Now that we have used the tape to close up one of these windows, you want to close up the second window in exactly the same way as the first one, but you want to use a slightly longer scotch tape, piece of scotch tape, maybe half an inch longer, so that you can grab onto it and slide it in and use the cotton swabs to close the window without running into the first tape. So that way you can close up the tape, close up the windows, and start filling in the glue. So the tape is fully stuck on to the insides of the barrel. Now we're going to begin pouring in the sealant inside this window. It doesn't matter which order you do it in. The important thing is you do one side first and you let it solidify and seal up. Then you do the other side and you let that solidify, and then you close up the bottom part because the vents here need to be also closed. So what I have seen is if you pour it on and you have a shiny layer on top of it, you leave it for a day, for 24 hours for this thing to cure, and at that point, if you put your finger on it, it won't leave finger marks behind like it would on a freshly poured concrete. If you were to put your shoe on it, you will leave permanent footprints in the concrete. We don't want that on our pen. So let's get started. I had used this tube before, and what I did was I didn't poke a complete hole. I just used this thing to poke a hole so that I can control how much of this liquid is coming out. What I typically want to do is start from the edge and work towards the center. I got a piece of hair. I think that's enough adhesive that I'm going to need. I'm going to cut this off, cut off the supply. And I got to take the hair out of there. It might create a little bit of a mess, but don't try to put the tissue paper on there just yet, because it will leave behind. See a little bit of a mess over there, but I'm more concerned about the piece of hair that is here. Remove that out. And then whatever's left behind, we can try to remove the excess by doing this. I poured a lot on there, and I've just removed the excess by just using gravity. This is the excess I got poured on there. The important thing here is to make sure that you're touching all of the edges. The sealant is getting in there and touching all of the edges and closing off the window completely. At this point, we gotta leave it alone. I want to make sure that you have a shiny surface on the top here. This thing is clear right now, but when it cures, it gets air bubbles inside of it. So I'm gonna leave this as is and let it solidify, and probably will continue working on it again tomorrow. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. So we have applied the glue to both of these windows, and we've let the glue cure and harden so that it's ready to be, the tape is ready to be removed. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to remove the tapes and see what the glue looks like. So I'm going to use the tweezers to start separating away the tape from the walls of the barrel. And this might not be easiest thing to do, but you want to get close to the walls, and the important thing is to peel the tape away from the glue. That's the important part. That, and see, the tape just tore. And that's alright. The tear can happen fine, and the important thing is to make sure that the tape peels off away from the glue and that the glue stays intact to the walls, to the hole. I think these tweezers are sharp, and that's why they're making the thing tear. I think I've screwed it up. I'll try to use my hands so that I prevent any further tearing. Basically the idea is to get all that tape out of there while keeping the glue intact. Let's see. The first one I didn't use any of the tweezers to remove this thing. Maybe use something more blunt to get this thing out. I'm trying to twist it away from there now. I've gotten the tape is off of the glue now. It's just the last bit. There you go. That's out. Okay. All of the tape is out of it now. And we've got glue in there. And the glue might still be a little bit soft, but we're going to leave it as is, and we're going to continue on with the putting glue at the back of this thing. So let's go ahead and get that done. I was going to pressure test it at this point. Just put my finger at the end of it and fill it with water all the way up to the rim, and just wait to see if that water on the rim starts coming down because of any leaks or anything, but I think I'll defer that till later. Okay, so let's put the glue onto the rest of this thing. think I've got enough glue there. I might pull away some of it. It's a nice round surface right now, but I want to ensure that it's covered entirely. And then I'm going to stand it up like this, and I'll leave it for this thing to harden and cure. Typically it's taking 12 hours to get to the point where I can move to the next step. But according to the packaging, it says it should take 24 hours for it to cure. This first window I did yesterday, and it was pretty good dry shape. I wasn't getting any stickiness on the surface of it with my fingers by 10-11 at night, and so I switched over and did the other window at that time, and it's 4 p.m. now, so that has had a chance to sit for more than 12 hours. This thing I'm going to probably check back at 4 o'clock tomorrow to see what it looks like, and then once that's done, we'll do a test of it and make sure and check the leak, check it for leaks, fill it with water, and make sure that it holds all the water, and then would be ready to fill it with ink and use it as an eyedropper. So stay tuned for the next installment.